This session is all about how you can save tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on tax depreciation as a property investor. I was trying to think of like some creative way to come in and talk about this session, but that's it. It's just straightforward. If you are focusing so much on how to make money, how to save money and stuff like that, why are you not thinking about tax depreciation and how that stuff works? So as a property investor, we probably should. It's coming up to tax time. It's June, 12th now? That's when this live was shot. So you should consider how this tax depreciation world works, and why not have an expert in tax depreciation, which is exactly who we had with Tyron. He has gone deep into the world of tax depreciation. These guys have been doing it for like 35, 40 years, and he still has a passion for it. Hey everyone, my name is Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we created Oz Property Investors, Australia's largest property investment forum with over 75,000 property investors. It's pretty cool. Each week, we interview top property experts that love talking about property investing, and Tyron's exactly like this. He just shares tips on how you can save money on property investing, because tax depreciation, I didn't really care about it up until this point, but it's made me stop to think a little bit more about it, because how do I save money? Like, you've already spent the money. So how do we get more money back from the government so that makes the property more cash flow positive for us? That's what this session is about. Let's jump in and see how we go. Good luck. What is tax depreciation? And I guess we're going to be talking mainly about tax depreciation from a normal residential, and we'll touch on a bit of commercial, but like, what is tax depreciation? Why do we care as property investors? Why should we care?
Well, we should care because it saves you money, pure and simple, to make your investment property more affordable. It can turn a negatively geared property into a positively geared property. And so what depreciation is, in summary, is you can claim a deduction for the wear and tear of an investment property against your taxable income. So just like if you're a tradie and you buy some tools from Bunnings, you can claim as a depreciable item, or a car, ute for Bunnings, you can claim the wear and tear of your investment property against your taxable income. And as quantity surveyors, what we do is we split it into two components of the report. There's the building, which is the structure, the brickwork, the concrete, all that stuff lasts over 40 years, right?
Right.
The other stuff that's for it more is important is the plant and equipment, which is the ovens, dishwashers, air conditioning. As I look around my house at the moment, the TV, that stuff wears and tears quicker, so you can claim it faster, which makes sense, right? But the big thing that's occurred in the quantity surveying industry over the last 30, 40 years was in 2017 when they changed the laws. And they said, if you buy a secondhand property, even if it's 1 day old now, you can't claim the depreciation of the oven, dishwashers anymore, even if it's 1 day old. You can still claim the structure, the brickwork, but it has to be brand new or commercial, or non-residential for you to claim that stuff now. So there's some big stuff we can unpack with that, but it certainly has been a game changer for our industry, because none of us saw it coming, and it makes a big difference to the investment equation. Because I'll give you an example. If you had two houses side by side, right, and I know it doesn't happen that often, but it can happen, that you've got, and say that one is brand new and it's for sale for $1 million, right? Next door is for sale. It's 1 day old, and this can happen, and it's worth $990,000, something like that. The one that's brand new, unfortunately, I don't say unfortunately, but because it does promote people going to new property, is that you'll get a $50,000 deduction over the first 10 years more than the one that's next door that's 1 day old. Now, that is bizarre in terms of the tax law and how everything else that manifests in terms of how you treat depreciable assets, and it's just narrowed down to this secondhand property market. And it's pretty silly. Literally today, we had a client that thought they bought something brand new, right? So it's still under construction when they bought it. When it got to settlement, we looked at the contract, and the agent says you're buying a brand new property. And if you're buying something that's not complete, you would think you're buying a brand new property, right? But what it was, a resale. Now, this is something people need to be warned about. If you're buying an apartment or a house that you think's brand new, make sure the vendor is a PTY limited company. Because if I buy it off, say you're a developer, Joe, and I buy it off you, right?
Yeah.
If say you're a developer, I buy it off you, it's halfway completed. Then I sell it to you, Jeff, and you settle on the same day when it's brand new. I haven't even gone into the apartment. The tax law treats it as secondhand because
someone else has
you didn't pay GST. Because you bypass the tax law treats it as secondhand because the first purchaser who sells it doesn't pay GST. So even though no one has gone into the apartment, open the door with a key, you can't claim depreciation. Got to start with a decent where you're going to buy. And for what I've seen, if I look at my Facebook feed, apparently there's only 3 suburbs in the whole of Australia that you need to buy in, and I can download a report and find out which they are. And funnily enough, they're selling property in those areas, people. So that is not what you do. So I would do the complete opposite of that. How I would start is I would get Terry Ryder's reports. I'd get I can never pronounce his name, Michael Matsuwitz's reports. I'd get Matsuzik's. I'd get SQM's reports and Harrington White's what do you call it? The property clock, right? And I would create a heat map, and I'd see which are the 4, which areas are they all saying are at the bottom of the cycle or about to begin or approaching the bottom of the cycle or just starting. And they're all 4 agreed on one area. That's where I'd start, and that's where I'd find someone who's an expert in that area. But I would not listen to 3 boom suburbs. And I wouldn't listen to anyone else, to be honest. I'd make my own decision to get to that area first and then find the best people to find properties in that area for me. That's what I would do if I wasn't in this industry. Just start with 4 independent pieces of advice, create a heat map, and go, you know what, I might buy there. That's just my tip.
What were the key lessons that you learned from Harry that as a normal everyday investor, that an everyday investor can take away? Because building 5,000 towers I'm never going to do that. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I'm never going to do it. I don't really care.
I could do it if I want to, but I just don't need to.
I could do it.
I don't.
I reckon.
Well, I mean, you can do anything you want to, but why do you need to?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't want to build 5,000, but what are the more like what are the interesting things that you saw in him that an everyday investor can take away? Sure.
That's I guess when you're talking about someone of that wealth, it is hard to it's whether it's but for me, so for me as an investor, he is the KISS principle, right? He has kept it simple. Now, Harry, with his teams of trades and teams of everything, he could have gone down the path of commercial, industrial, many other different facets of building, right? He's kept it simple, and all he's built is apartments, and he's got so good at it, right? So I've learned from that, from my business point of view. I've started so many different businesses, and I've just gone at the end of the cycle here. I've just narrowed it down, just stuck to what I wrote my thesis on 30 plus years ago, right? I've gone down to due diligence reports, building insurance valuations, you name it. I even created a competitor realestate.com at one point. And there's my dog. Create a competitor realestate.com and thought I could take them on. For the average day investor, what can they learn from that? Okay, if you ask me, focus on the one asset class, right? Like what he has done. Yeah. He has become the best at service apartments. If you become the best and I've got clients like this, if you become the best at pubs, I've got many clients like that. If you become the best at storage units, right? When shit hits the fan and there's a fire sale of a pub, who are they going to go to? Someone that understands that whole market, right? Or they're going to go to someone and put it on the market and hope that someone comes, right? So if you become the best in that asset class, you link to all those people and you link in those circles, you might get that best deal. So sticking to your knitting would be the one thing that we can take away from him. Let's say I bought a property that was built in the year 2000, say. And I had it for a couple of years, and I go, you know what? I want to get a new tenant. I want to rip out that existing kitchen. Now, I just told you that kitchens last for 40 years. If I did that next year, say, that's 15 years. That's 25 years from zero to year 2000 to 2025, 25 years. That means there's 15 years left on that kitchen that could be depreciated, but I've just ripped it out. So where's that 15 years gone? Well, it should go in your back pocket. You should be getting me out before you rip it out. And I put a value on the original kitchen and say, well, it cost 30 grand back then. Shit, there's still 15 years to go. The moment you remove that kitchen, you get a $10,000 immediate deduction. That's the 1%, right? Those and it can add up. Trust me, if you're talking about removing kitchen, bathrooms, you're talking plumbing, electrical, gyprock, tiling, all that stuff. It can quickly add up to a massive deduction that you've never thought about.
When should I do these things? So I do a pest and building report. So I buy a property, I get under contract, I do a pest and building, and the pest and building is like, Joe, you need to fix this window, you need to do the gutters, you need to change the hot water system. It's not broken yet, but it will be. How should I think about that? Like, how should I think about all of these little paint the place? Like, how do I think about that in terms of instant asset write-off versus there's a tenant in there versus there's no tenant in there? Like, what should I do from a tax depreciation standpoint?
God, you know enough to be dangerous, Joe. That was a really, really that was a
solid question.
That was a good, solid question. Wow, boom. Let me answer that I've got a couple of slides coming up on that, but in summary, in a business sense, so you just mentioned temporary full expensing, which I'll go into, so I'll ignore that. But in terms of, which I'm going to talk about next, actually, but in terms of maintenance and stuff like that, okay, and repairs and stuff, I do talk about this in a second, but there's a thing called initial repairs, right? So if you buy a house that's in a dilapidated form and you think, oh, my God, that toilet needs to be replaced, it needs to be repaired, and I rip out the toilet. If you buy a property and do it straight away, the tax office will determine that none of it is repair. They don't, because the repair, you got to remember this, for an item to be repaired, the wear and tear needed to occur while you own the property, right? Right? And this is what people don't forget. So if you go into a property brand new, and people do this all the time, they go into a property and go, oh, shit, that needs repair. I'll just paint this one wall, blah, blah, blah. It's called, the ATO deems it an initial repair. So it might be worthwhile waiting sometimes if your property needs to be if you want to depreciate, just waiting 6 months. And then it's really hard to determine whether the work was in disrepair during the time you owned it or before, right? I will talk about a little bit in a second.
Okay, I feel like I'm still in a bit of thunder here. So I feel like my question is going to be answered throughout. So what's fit out mean?
Okay, so this is one of the questions you just mentioned. So now, which is what you said, temporary full expensing, right? Now is if you own an office and you are considering upgrading that office, do it now. Do it now before the end of the year, because before the end of financial year, the government has before the end of financial year, because the government has extended the small business asset write-off class for up to 20,000. It used to be up to like 500 million, but it's up for small businesses, it's up to 20 grand. So what that means is if you own an office or you're buying an office and you want to do a fit out, and say you spend $200,000 on the fit out, anything that costs under $20,000, which is a lot of things, can be instantly written off, right? So if you're getting a quote if you buy a little office and you're getting a quote from your carpet manufacturer or your carpet laying dude or person, and it's coming in at 21 grand, get a little bit of a cheaper carpet and go for 19,900. Why? Because you're going to get a $19,000 deduction as opposed to 20 grand, 100. You got to claim that over 10 years at $2,000. Quick hack, buy the carpet for 19 grand. And that for a fit out adds up to a lot of things. You're talking boardroom tables, desks, chairs, lighting. Try and get them all under 20 grand.
So these are the things like
Harry report recently for 200 grand, right, and the client got $160,000 as an immediate deduction. Right? So pretty much everything they spent was immediately deductible. It's not bad. It makes it worthwhile.
So these are the little tips and tricks that like Harry Triggerboff is using, right?
Well, definitely the scrapping is one. He absolutely. Oh, he definitely uses it. Okay, I'll give you one example. The scrapping one that I said before, where if you remove a kitchen, right? I told him one of this tip about scrapping once, and he owns a lot of hotels, obviously. And I told him this. I said, Harry, because hotel lobbies, they're not going to last 40 years, right? Even though the government says it's going to last 40 years, if you actually want to get people into your hotel, you're not going to have a 40-year-old lobby in a nice high-rise apartment, right? It's not going to work. So I said to him, Harry, I said, if you remove all these, the walls and the reception and all this, I said, I'll write a report for you and I'll write off whatever you haven't claimed. Over the next year, he started renovating every frigging hotel lobby he had. I'm like, and so I just go, oh God, I just created my own work.
Can you claim on that, or does it have to be the brand new kit and caboodle from
claim on secondhand things?
That's a fantastic question, and this is a bizarre answer. So the first part of this answer is it has to be brand new, but it has to be brand new only for things like ovens, TVs, dishwashers, right? Even if you go to, what's that place, the second store place, the good guy, one of them, unless there's GST paid on that item, that brand new plant equipment item, you can't claim it. However, the building allowance component, you can go and buy $1,000 worth of bricks that are secondhand, put them into your property, because they're not based on purchase price, they're based on construction costs. They can still be old and still be claimable, whereas an oven can't. It's bizarre. But that's so. The answer to the question: can you buy something off Facebook Marketplace? Yes and no. Yes, you can buy a brand new oven. Oh, sorry, you can buy a secondhand oven, but you can't claim it. But you can buy secondhand timber doors and claim them. Bizarre.
As a quantity surveyor, do you have to inspect? Like, should you inspect the property? Like, should an inspection be done visually, physically? Or do you not need one physically?
Okay, so when the laws changed, we used to, and every other firm used to inspect every property, because we used to be going out to every residential property and revaluing the plant and equipment, working out how many square metres of carpet, lines, etc. We inspect probably 60% of properties now, every commercial, industrial we do. But there's some residential properties where we say to the clients, look, it's not necessary. We've already got the costs. Like if Meriton, for instance, gives me the cost on every job, which they do, me going out there 6 months for the new purchaser is not going to save them money. It's not going to change that oven that's in there. So we look at the property and go, oh, this one we've already got the cost. We don't need to inspect it. We'll pass that saving on to you. So rather than saying to all our clients, every property has to be inspected, we prefer to say, give us your property details. We've got the property costs on so many buildings that we can pass that saving on to them. Because that's what we're really looking for, is the original construction costs. That's what we do as quantity surveyors in this space. And we've got it on a lot of buildings. So why charge someone to go out and see a property if we don't need to? That's our version. This is repairs and initial repairs. I know for a fact the ATO are cracking down this year more than ever on people claiming repairs incorrectly or correctly. And I can tell you as a fact, two of my staff members have both been audited this year, and the ATO put out a ruling saying we're cracking down on repairs. And two of my staff members this year, last month, have both been audited on the repairs they claimed in their property. Luckily, they had Washington Brown do their report and they went through okay. But number one thing to be wary of is initial repairs, which I said before. If you buy a property and you repair it straight away, no matter if it looked like a repair, it's not a repair. It's an initial repair. So be wary of what a repair is and what it's not. I'll give you a couple of examples of what a repair is and what's not. Okay. So a repair would be if I had a hot water system and I got a plumber out and he fixed it, right? That's a repair. If I get a plumber out and goes, oh, I can't fix that, I've got to put a new one in. It's not a repair. It's a capital improvement. I'll give you one more example. Say I've got a paling fence down the side of my block, and we've got five fence pales that need to be repaired. If I replace those, that's a repair. If I rip up all the fencing around my block, put up a concrete brickwork fence, that's a capital improvement. Even though the fence looked like it needs to be repaired, you've improved it. It's a capital improvement. So just be careful of what you claim as repairs and what you claim as initial repairs. Me personally, I think the sweet spot of investing, if you're a mum and dad investor or something like that, is a property that's about 10 years old. And the reason I say that is you can get enough data to know the comparables. Right, for starters, nothing to do with depreciation, but you can get a good enough data to know what the comparables are. It's very hard in a high-rise block where, it's 6 months old, doesn't mean anything, right? Until there's been enough sales in that block or that area. So 10 years old. The reason why I say 10 years is you can buy something. For me, the best renovation from a value add point plus depreciation point of view is 10 years. And the reason is because a lot of the stuff that's depreciable, like the ovens, carpets, blinds, all that stuff has an effective life of around 10 years. So you can go in there, make those cosmetic $25,000 improvements, rip out the carpets, blinds, have the uplift of value of that with your rental and also hopefully the purchase price, but also that $25,000 of those small loose items is highly depreciable stuff. So you can, of that 25, you might get a $10,000 deduction immediately, right? Because we can write off those blinds. So for me, it's that 10 to 12 years a sweet spot. Apart from the fact you can get the comparables, you'll have the uplift of that cosmetic stuff, the painting, which, we all know that is the stuff people walk in and go, oh, that's nice. And then on top of that, you've got the depreciable assets that can be written off as well. So those three combinations has always led me to tell people that is the sweet spot you want to look at.
Yeah, love it.
Can you please mention the adjustments for capital works claimed when selling an IP in relation to what was claimed as a rental deduction? Does that make sense to you, Tyron?
Absolutely does. And it's a very good question. It's the one question that I get asked every time. It's where I mentioned it before. So basically what this question is that when you claim, it is a complicated answer, but when you claim the building allowance of a property, you have to factor it back into the capital gains equation. So I'll try and simplify this. Say I bought a property for $500,000 and I claimed $20,000 in building allowance and I sold the property for $600,000, right? So I made a $100,000 profit. When you sell the property, you've claimed $20,000 in building allowance, you have to pay capital gains tax on the 500 to the 600, which is 100 grand. You have to pay capital gains tax on 120 grand. However, the government says you can halve that. You get the halve, provided you held it for more than a year, you get the capital gains discounting. So the $20,000 in capital works allowance, you're only paying capital gains tax on 10. So you get the benefit of that on what you've claimed. You also get the timing benefit because you've claimed that depreciation throughout your owning it. So there's two benefits of why you would do it, depreciation. One is the cash flow benefit whilst you own it. And two, when or if you sell your profit and if you make a capital gain, well, whatever you claimed in the building allowance is only factored in halfway. Now, where it gets more complicated is when you buy a brand new property or a commercial property. So I just talked about the building allowance then, the brickwork, concrete, how you factor it into your capital gains. The other part of the equation is your plant equipment, the ovens, dishwashers, right? So say I bought a commercial office for whatever, it doesn't matter the price, but within there was a $1,000 oven. If I depreciate that down to $500, I would sell that at the written down value, no implications on my capital gain. So I bought the oven for $1,000, sold it at $500. That was assumed the written down value. So it has no implications on it. You just get that as a deduction. It's different with the building allowance, and that's why it is complicated. So moral of the story, brand new ovens, dishwashers, commercial, doesn't make any difference to your capital gains tax. It's when you're claiming the building allowance that you have to factor it in. But I've just told you two ways of why it's beneficial. One is your cash flow while you're holding it because you get those deductions. Two, if you never sell a property, doesn't matter. But three, if you do sell it, you halve whatever you've claimed and put that on to your capital gains equation.